This is Shel Horowitz from greenandprofitable.com and from Business for a Better World. And I'm here with Kelly Sackheim from KC Hydro. Kelly is based in California and is an expert in hydropower. In fact, she develops hydropower installations. Kelly, welcome to
Thank you.
Massachusetts and to my video. So talk about hydro. Hydro has been around for a long time, and yet for some reason the alternative energy conversations rarely bring up hydro. It's mostly, we hear about solar and wind and even some more exotic things than that. So
There are some exotic elements to hydro, but I think that at the present time, we often say the fish lobby is stronger than we are. And the other newer, more interesting forms of renewable energy really do need the help. In hydropower, there is the hydrokinetic efforts to capture tidal flows, or we call them open channel turbines, where you can anchor a turbine in a waterway without having to enclose the water in a pipe to build up the pressure to generate the power.
just free-flowing, spinning as it goes by. I'm personally very excited about that. I see enormous potential in that.
The biggest difficulty is that even though you are not putting your open channel turbine in a constricted area, the open channel turbine is vulnerable to debris that's coming by. And fish or the like won't necessarily make it through an open channel turbine any better than that they will make it through a diversion structure or...
Could you fence it off? Could you have a chain link fence that diverts the floating debris going down the river around it?
Indeed. Every hydroelectric facility is going to have a diversion structure that protects the facility from debris going in and protects fish from getting chewed up by the facility. And these trash racks and diversion structures are designed based on the manner in which the water is being diverted. Often you have a very long diversion area so that the velocity going into the facility is slow enough that fish will just slide off, as you say, debris. We're not real worried about debris slamming up against a trash rack because there's automated systems to clean the trash racks and dump the debris in a manner that it can be disposed of. But taking care of fish is a hard one. One of the stronger arguments for the oldest technology that's now become the new thing is the Archimedes screw, because there are Archimedes screw designs where fish can pass right through the hydroelectric turbine as it is generating power with no harm to the fish.
Okay, now for those of us who've forgotten everything we learned in junior high or intermediate school, remind us what an Archimedes screw is.
Well, it looks like a screw, and historically it was used to pump water and liquids upstream, and the way that it generates power is that it has a surface area that the water is going to be pushing down upon, and so that will force it to turn. And it's the turning of the screw that is connected to a generator that in turn is powered up to whatever, stepped up to whatever level of electricity you want to be generating.
And the ghost of Henry James is sitting there writing about it.
I guess so.
Didn't he write a book called The Turn of the Screw?
There is The Turn of the Screw, and I don't know if that was an Archimedes screw or something else, but Archimedes screws are used in modern day for such features as pumping sludge in water treatment systems up into the next.
Okay, so how do we take the water running by our local river and convert it into a power source? And is that power source best used to turn machines, like a screw or like a turbine, or should it be used to have that turbine generate electricity rather than run the actual operation?
Okay, historically in New England there's a lot of mechanical hydropower. The old mills, grist mills, and those are the sites now that are being retrofit to generate electricity. You don't want to use electricity to heat your home. I mean, that's a really inefficient use of energy. you use natural gas instead of using that same natural gas to generate electricity. The power of water is related to the difference in, it's the falling water is what generates the power. I mean, when water flows downstream, you can capture the power in an open channel that you don't notice quite the descent, but it's pushing, and gravity is really, water is the intermediary, but gravity is what we're capturing at the end of the day in terms of energy. So in order to capture that energy, what you need to have is enough gravity and enough water to carry, to be the motor from the gravity. And our biggest concern is that we need to leave enough water in the stream for the other beneficial uses in the segment that we're going to use between the top and the bottom of the system.
But the water does go back in after you're done with it.
It goes back in.
So there's no net loss of water.
No, this is not a consumptive use of water. This is a diversion use of water. And what folks are concerned about is the point of diversion, making sure that you're not bringing anything more than water or things that aren't going to harm our equipment or be harmed, such as fish. The bypass reach, which is where the water would have gone, but now there's less water because the water is being diverted, and then the return, which can be very disruptive to natural systems if not engineered properly.
Yeah, so I would imagine you have to have it come back into the stream fairly gradually and not like a huge torrent.
Right. I mean, it's the same amount of water that came out, but a stilling pond is perhaps the best description of what overall is sought. We typically do the return underwater, so we're not churning things up as badly, and there are geometries that work better in some situations than other situations.
What do you think are the best uses for hydropower?
At the present time, generating electricity is most likely to be the use of choice, because remember, hydroelectric generation is very site specific. You have to be where the natural water channel is. And so if you can convert the power into electricity, you can transport it to where it's actually going to be used. If you have a site that has good generation where you could put a factory to use the mechanical power, well, that's another option. But what we're very concerned about are losses. One of the things that hydroelectric power can be used for is sort of a battery. And what that's called is pump storage. It is about 20% loss of energy to pump. But wait a minute, if you have your solar plant running all day and you don't need that much energy, you could pump back up during the day. You're losing 20% of the energy, but otherwise, where's it going to go? We don't have another battery. If you think of the water in the upstream reservoir as storage of energy until it falls back down again, what you're doing is, with a 20% loss, you're sending the water back up.
I don't know. I would hope that we could bring that 20% down to 5 or 6 at some point. I think that's a very, very high ratio.
I'm not an engineer, but it's not a high ratio when you think about other things, such as we have base load energy. I mean, right now we've got nuclear plants, and during the day you need a lot more electricity than at night. Now at night you need so much less electricity that the nuclear plants need to dump their energy somewhere. What better thing to do than dump their energy in pumping water back up? Back up.
So until we get to the point where we've shut down the nuclear plants, this is a way of dealing with that problem.
Right. From an economic perspective, the hydropower generator says, during the day, I'm getting paid at least 3 times as much for my electricity as I'm getting paid at night because of the demand and the economy is working here. So I'm going to buy cheap power. If I'm going to buy power at 1/3 the price at night, if I've got a 20% loss, well, if I'm earning 3 times as much, you can see that's quite a bit. The numbers work. So, and the reason that the numbers work from a financial perspective is that the market is taking into account some power. You don't have that option. Most hydroelectric, especially new hydroelectric, is going to be run a river.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have off-channel storage, we can play these games with pump storage.
Now, why is so much historically in the last 150 years, how much hydropower has been for these really environmentally destructive, massive projects? You know, the Hoover Dam, the Three Gorges Dam in China, or the Hydro-Quebec systems that are just wiping out whole ecosystems and whole communities. How did we get into that mess, and why? If people can do these smaller on-site hydros in small rivers.
It's a question of economics. Those projects, rate of return on the infrastructure. It's also, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was created to manage our waterways, and you know, they want bigger is better. That's the American way. And you know, China has some really big needs for energy, and so it, in many ways, was the low-hanging fruit. The small hydroelectric generation, we really aren't making an economic profit. The projects that I work on, it's because I have a passion for it, because I enjoy it, not because I'm earning consulting rates working consulting hours. If I were to calculate the value of my time, by the time I get to a project, the hydroelectric generation in a small site would never pay it back. At many sites that I do, because I work at the smallest scale, I can't even pay back a loan that would be necessary to buy the hardware to put the hydroelectric facility in.
So how do you make a living doing this thing?
Well, I consult on the side, and my slogan has been multi-use microhydro. And what that means is that if a dam needs to be repaired anyway, it only costs a little bit more to install the hydroelectric. I don't have to install the dam, I don't have to repair the dam. If the dam owner has the foresight to install the hydroelectric, then the generation of electricity, because the fuel source is free, can pay to maintain that dam.
Okay.
And maintain what the community values as the use of the facility. So hydroelectric can be not only a nominal revenue generator, but it can bring the technical assistance to get the job done.
Okay, cool. Well, Kelly Sackheim, tell us what your website is and tell people what they'll find there.
My website is www.kchydro.com, and what they'll find is that I haven't updated it in a long time.
She's too busy building dams.
But no, I don't build dams. I have only been operating at existing facilities and doing run-of-the-river.
What's run-of-the-river?
Run-of-the-river means that you will divert the water and return it back, and you are not using control structures to generate the power. Somebody else's. For example, there's a facility that I operated in Maryland that is located at a water supply dam. And so the water supply company decides when the water is going to flow through the dam, and when they decide it will flow through the dam, I will get to generate electricity on that site.
Okay.
So it's this collaborative sense. What you'll also see on the site is that presently in the United States, as I mentioned, it is federally regulated to sell electricity generated using water, and there is quite a process before you can get a project built, and that's where the environment gets protected.
Good. Well, Kelly Sackheim, thanks so much for joining us. This is Shel Horowitz from greenandprofitable.com and Business for a Better World, which is business-for-a-better-world.com. Signing off.